This is Bridget Schobert, and I'm doing my informative speech. This is my audience. Okay. The topic of my speech is global warming, and I'm going to focus on the issues of the melting ice caps. The melting ice caps are not just an issue that we need to worry about today, but it is something that we should be educating our future generations about. Not only the effects and the causes, but also the purpose. There's always a purpose behind a global issue. It's been said that we don't need to educate. Education is what is going to make us better, make us stronger, and help us move forward. There are many things that affect the polar ice caps that melt and global warming. A couple of the things that are affecting the ice caps melting is the change in the seasons. There are 5 seasons, and we get to experience all of them here in Iowa. However, with the polar ice caps melting, more water is coming down, so we're creating a new season called flooding. Flooding is a serious issue because it ruins people's homes, properties, livestock, and livelihoods. The polar ice caps are melting at a rate that's astonishing. They say that the ice caps are melting further in Greenland than they are at any other point in the globe. Because the ice caps are melting, it's affecting many different areas, including the timber. The timber is being affected because it's getting wet and it's not being able to dry out. People are having a hard time excavating it and then selling it for purpose. Animals are also being affected. One of the most affected animals because of the polar ice caps melting is the polar bear. This is affecting their breeding grounds, their hunting grounds, and it's causing the polar bears to go more into towns, which in return makes people want to kill them. The Arctic wolf is also losing its feeding grounds because of the polar ice caps melting. More space is being covered by water than it is by ice, so it's harder for them to get across the continent, so they're stuck more to one centralized location. The penguins, their breeding grounds are being affected deeply by this. They don't have the shores that they used to have. They would be able to come up on the shore, they would huddle together, lay their eggs, the males would watch the eggs, and then the females would go and they would hunt to get energy. This is no longer happening at the rate that it was a few years ago. While the men still stay and they nurture the eggs, the women are still leaving, but now they don't have to go quite as far, so there's a conflict in roles with the penguins. There are many different things that we can do to help with the polar ice cap melting. Another one of the big reasons, or one of the big ways that we can help, is by limiting how much we're driving. If we were to walk a little bit more, or if we were to carpool a little bit more, take public transportation, that would help us with the emissions into the air. The emissions are what is causing the ozone to shrink and to get very thin, and that's why we have holes in the ozone. The holes in the ozone then in return is letting the rays of the sun come in, which is melting the polar ice caps. Conservation is a big issue. We all wonder how we can conserve the resources that we currently have, and one of the resources that we have is the fishing industry that comes from the polar ice caps. It carries minerals and nutrients. There's a lot of stuff that the fish eat off of the water and off the icebergs and off the ice of the polar ice caps. So when they melt, it affects the fishing industry also. The benefits of development need to be weighed against the harm to the animals that may be forced into new habitats. So when people build around the polar ice caps and they add towns and they add industry up there, it is taking away the land that the animals use for everything. Conserving the resources is not something just for the wealthy, it's also for the people that are middle class and lower class. Lawn mowers also give off a lot of CO2 emissions and would help you to save gas, petroleum, and money. There are some easy ways that we can conserve in our homes and on a daily basis. One of the easiest ways that we can do that is by reusing our plastic bags. Instead of throwing them into the garbage where they end in a landfill, we can reuse those for other things around the house, like smaller garbages or lunch sacks instead of buying a lunch bag. We can recycle these products. They can also be used for other things. People have started making purses out of like the fruit, the Starburst wrappers, and the candy bar wrappers. You can also make bags out of the plastic bags, turn them into something that's a little bit more durable and sturdy, long-lasting. We can also use cotton swabs with the paper spindles instead of the plastic spindles. It's a small thing, but it makes a big difference. We can wrap our presents creatively. We don't have to have fancy wrapping paper. We can use newspaper, we can use plastic bags, we can use clothing. There's many different options. Something interesting that I learned while researching my topic was that if you used one less paper napkin, that would save hundreds of thousands of paper napkins from going into landfills. So when you're eating at a restaurant, just remember, use one less napkin and help save the environment. Should I clap?